Expected progress is the development of the individualized education program equal for special education students. Is it equal for special education students? The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, passed by the United States Congress in 1975, is intended, quote, to ensure that all children with disabilities have available to them a free, appropriate public education that emphasizes special education-related services designed to meet their unique needs and prepare them for further education, employment, and independent living. Title 20 of the United States Code, Chapter 33. Special education from the student point of view. I was in special education in elementary school and middle school, experienced the consequences of it in high school and beyond. I'm David Potter. I survived special education, not a joke. Expected progress is the development of the individualized education program equal for special education students. Let's look at Title 20 of the United States Code, Chapter 33, Section 1414, Paragraph 3.
What does the law say? 3. Development of IEP A. In general, in developing each child's IEP, the IEP team, subject to subparagraph C, shall consider, lowercase Roman numeral 1, the strengths of the child. What needs to change in the law? What strengths are actually considered? The weaknesses, as in the disability, is the focus of the program. What does the law say? Lowercase Roman numeral 2. The concerns of the parents for enhancing the education of their child. What needs to change in the law? 1. Enhancements. Being denied access to general education with the expectation of fulfilling the requirements of general education is not an enhancement. What does the law say? Lowercase Roman numeral 3. The results of the initial evaluation or the most recent evaluation of the child, and what needs to change the law? Do general education students get evaluated this much? What does the law say? Lowercase Roman numeral 4. The academic, developmental, and functional needs of the child. What needs to change in the law? Do general education students get evaluated in these areas? What does the law say? B. Consideration of special factors. The IEP team shall, lowercase Roman numeral 1, in the case of a child whose behavior impedes a child's learning or that of others, consider the use of positive behavioral interventions and supports and other strategies to address that behavior. What needs to change in the law? What happens when other people's behavior impedes a disabled child's learning and they are not addressed? The disabled child isn't the problem, and the child's disability isn't the problem. Positive behavioral interventions and supports, which places all responsibility on the disabled child while ignoring other factors, doesn't address the behavior. What does the law say? Lowercase Roman numeral 2. In the case of a child with limited English proficiency, consider the language needs of the child as such needs relate to the child's IEP. What needs to change in the law? For those whose English is a second language, is the limited English itself considered a disability? Can this be done without an IEP? What does the law say? Lowercase Roman numeral 3. In the case of a child who is blind or visually impaired, provide for instruction in Braille and the use of Braille unless the IEP team determines, after an evaluation of the child's reading and writing skills, needs an appropriate reading and writing media, including an evaluation of the child's future needs for instruction in Braille or the use of Braille, that instruction in Braille or the use of Braille is not appropriate for the child. What needs to change in the law? For blind or visually impaired, why not make it available without an IEP or determining if it is appropriate? The student may prefer it, but be denied access, resulting in failing the goals of the IEP. What does the law say? Lowercase Roman numeral 4. consider the communication needs of the child, and in the case of a child who is deaf or hard of hearing, consider the child's language and communication needs, opportunities for direct communication with peers and professional personnel in the child's language communication mode, academic level, and full range of needs, including opportunities for direct instruction in the child's language and communication mode, and what needs to change the law. Does concerning it mean actually doing it? What does the law say? Lowercase Roman numeral 5. Consider whether the child needs assistive technology devices and services. What needs to change the law? Add the child's preference whenever possible. What does the law say? C. Requirement with respect to regular education teacher. A regular education teacher of the child, as a member of the IEP team, shall, to the extent appropriate, participate in the development of the IEP of the child, including the determination of appropriate positive behavioral interventions and supports and other strategies, and the determination of supplementary aids and services, program modifications, and support for school personnel consistent with paragraph 1A, lowercase Roman numeral 1, Roman numeral 4. What needs to change in the law? Elementary school students have one teacher, meaning they don't have a regular education teacher unless it is the teacher the student would have had if not in special education. I really don't know how this works. Middle and high school students have multiple teachers, meaning at least one regular education teacher may be part of the team. What does the law say? D. Agreement. In making changes to a child's IEP after the annual IEP meeting for a school year, the parent of a child with a disability and the local educational agency may agree not to convene an IEP meeting for the purposes of making such changes and instead develop a written document to amend or modify the child's current IEP. What needs to change in the law? At least it allows for changing circumstances during the school year and allowing amendments. What does the law say? E. Consolidation of IEP team meetings. To the extent possible, the local educational agency shall encourage the consolidation of reevaluation meetings for the child and other IEP team meetings for the child. What needs to change the law? How many meetings are there per year? Do general education students have multiple reevaluation meetings during the school year? What does the law say? F. Amendments. Changes to the IEP may be made either by the entire IEP team or, as provided in subparagraph D, by amending the IEP rather than by redrafting the entire IEP. Upon request, a parent shall be provided with a revised copy of the IEP with the amendments incorporated. 4. Review and revision of IEP. A. In general, the local educational agency shall ensure that, subject to subparagraph B, the IEP team, lowercase Roman numeral 1, reviews a child's IEP periodically, but not less frequently than annually, to determine whether the annual goals for the child are being achieved, and, lowercase Roman numeral 2, revises the IEP as appropriate to address, Roman numeral 1, any lack of expected progress toward the annual goals and in the general education curriculum where appropriate, Roman numeral 2, the results of any reevaluation conducted under this section. Roman numeral 3, information about the child provided to or by the parents as described in subsection lowercase c 1b. Roman numeral 4, the child's anticipated needs, or Roman numeral 5, other matters. What needs to change in the law? Responsibility for lack of expected progress does not belong on the student alone, whether the EIP is fully implemented or not. What does the law say? B. Requirement with respect to regular education teacher. A regular education teacher of the child, as a member of the IEP team, shall, consistent with paragraph 1c, participate in the review and revision of the IEP of the child. What needs to change the law? How does this work in elementary school when students have one teacher for the entire day? What does the law say? Lowercase Roman numeral 3, proposal. Skipping Roman numeral 1. Roman numeral 2, content. This proposal shall include skipping lowercase aa and bb. Lowercase cc, a list of required elements for each multi-year IEP, including AA, measurable goals pursuant to paragraph 1a, lowercase Roman numeral 1, Roman numeral 2, coinciding with natural transition points for the child that will enable the child to be involved in and make progress in the general education curriculum that will meet the child's other needs that result from the child's disability, and BB, measurable annual goals for determining progress toward meeting the goals described in sub-item AA, and lowercase dd, a description of the process for the review and revision of each multi-year IEP, including AA, a review by the IEP team of the child's multi-year IEP at each of the child's natural transition points. BB, in years other than a child's natural transition point, an annual review of the child's IEP to determine the child's current levels of progress and whether the annual goals for the child are being achieved, and a requirement to remind the IEP as appropriate to enable the child to continue to meet the measurable goals set out in the IEP. CC, if the IEP team determines on the basis of a review that the child is not making sufficient progress toward the goals described in the multi-year IEP, a requirement that the local educational agency shall ensure that the IEP team carries out a more thorough review of the IEP in accordance with paragraph 4 within 10 calendar days, and DD, at the request of the parent, a requirement that the IEP team shall conduct a review of the child's multi-year IEP rather than or subsequent to an annual review. What needs to change in the law? The only other natural transition point mentioned in this law is a change in direction at age 16 when it should start earlier. What does the law say? 5. Multi-year IEP demonstration. A. Pilot program. Lowercase Roman numeral 1. Purpose. The purpose of this paragraph is to provide an opportunity for states to allow parents and local educational agencies the opportunity for long-term planning by offering the option of developing a comprehensive multi-year IEP not to exceed 3 years that is designed to coincide with the natural transition points for the child. Lowercase Roman numeral 2. Authorization. In order to carry out the purpose of this paragraph, the Secretary is authorized to approve not more than 15 proposals from states to carry out this activity described in clause lowercase Roman numeral 1. What needs to change in the law? Nothing was changed since this was implemented, so it must be working. What does the law say? B. Report. Beginning 2 years after December 3, 2004, the Secretary shall submit an annual report to the Committee on Education and the Workforce of the House of Representatives and the Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions of the Senate regarding the effectiveness of the program under this paragraph and any specific recommendations for broader implementation of such program, including lowercase Roman numeral 1, reducing. Roman numeral 1, the paperwork burden on teachers, principals, administrators, and related service providers, and Roman numeral 2, non-instructional time spent by teachers in complying with the subchapter. Lowercase Roman numeral 2, enhancing longer-term educational planning. Lowercase Roman numeral 3, improving positive outcomes for children with disabilities. Lowercase Roman numeral 4, promoting collaboration between IEP team members. And lowercase Roman numeral 5, ensuring satisfaction of family members. What needs to change in the law? Add ensuring satisfaction of the student. If the student isn't satisfied, all of this is meaningless. Also, change the system to where paperwork is reduced by changing the general education program to where special education isn't necessary. What does the law say? C. Definition. In this paragraph, the term natural transition points means those periods that are close in time to the transition of a child with a disability from preschool to elementary grades, from elementary grades to middle or junior high grades, from middle or junior high grades to secondary school grades, and from secondary school grades to post-secondary activities, but in no case a period longer than 3 years. What needs to change in the law? Apply the natural transition points to the entire law, not just the multi-year IEP or age 16.
How does this law impact my life? Quote, a child whose behavior impedes a child's learning or that of others stands out to me. It is missing the fact that the disabled child's education is also impeded by non-disabled students and staff. The child's behavior only applies to the disabled. 20 U.S.C. 39 doesn't even mention behavior. Is it equal for special education students? The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, passed by the United States Congress in 1975, is intended, quote, to ensure that all children with disabilities have available to them a free, appropriate public education that emphasizes special education-related services designed to meet their unique needs and prepare them for further education, employment, and independent living. Title 20 of the United States Code, Chapter 33. Special education from the student point of view. I was in special education in elementary school and middle school, experienced the consequences of it in high school and beyond. I'm David Potter. I survived special education, not a joke.
Is it equal for special education students? Is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act working as intended? Is it preparing disabled students for further education, employment, and independent living? Visit the website at notajoke.net. I'm David Powder. I survived special education, not a joke.